So I'm going to record this session today, just for those that might have purchased a ticket and are unable to join right now live. Everyone fine tonight? Everyone good? Yes, cool. Oh. Very good, very good. Okay, so this evening is promising to be a fantastic opportunity to learn more about leadership and women leadership, specifically applied in the environment. We have quite a lot of people that sign up for the event, so it should be really a good one. But let me start without further ado. I want to introduce you to the Women in Sustainability Network. Some of you will be already familiar with the network, and you will have already attended some of the events. But for those that haven't, or if you want to, a little reminder of the values, we show who we are. So, it's all about being authentic. And you can see it right now. I'm a little nervous because this is our first Herts Hub event. So I'm very authentic right now, to be fair. We build resilience. That means we bounce back from any setbacks that we might have, and we do it together. We inspire action, and that's exactly what we want to achieve tonight with this particular event. We want, by the end of the evening, everyone to have a practical idea of how to become true leaders in sustainability. And finally, we work together, and that's why it's a network, and that's the beauty of it. Now, the idea of the network is that, and I'm going to read from the website because the wording are exactly, the vision of the network. We love bringing together women who share common values that include making a difference, treading lightly on this planet, being authentic and leading change. Those are our drivers too. Our values steer both how we roll as a business, but also how we deliver the network, our hub events and other services. Now, who we are. Now here, obviously, this is the first, as I just said, Wins Herts event. So I am the hub leader. I'm Virginia Cinquemani. I'm the hub leader for Women in Sustainability Network Herts, or Hertfordshire, for full name. And I am joined tonight by three amazing volunteers. I got Rachel. Do you want to say who you are, Rachel? You want to unmute yourself?
I am Rachel. I'm very excited to be here, to be part of this new network. I'm a sustainability manager for a construction company, normally Wilmot Dixon, and very excited to hear from everyone tonight.
Thank you very much, Rachel. We then have Olivia. Oh, you're muted, darling.
There we go. I'm unmuted. Hello, everyone. I'm Olivia. I joined Women in Sustainability because it's just been such an important aspect of my life, my so far short life. I'm only 19. I'm a little baby, but I'm here to encourage the younger generation to really put their passion into something so important. And I'm so glad to see everybody here tonight.
Thank you, Olivia. And then we got Irene. Irene? There you go.
Sorry. Hi, sorry. Hi, everybody. Hi, Maureen. I'm a civil engineer and architect. I've been living and working in the UK for the last 4 years, and I've joined WINS movement, in particular, Hertfordshire Hub, because I wanted to bring more female engineers into the sustainability sector.
Thank you very much. And of course, I forgot to say, I'm also the founder and director of Green Gorilla Consultants Ltd. So Women in Sustainability is one role that I have, but I also have my own company, is a coaching and training company for sustainability professionals to really make an impact. So this is what we do at Green Gorilla. We coach and train people to make an impact. So that's us, and as I said, this is the first night. Now tonight, what can you expect from tonight? Inspiration. So we have 5 incredible panelists who are going to introduce themselves in just a minute to you and share a bit of their stories and how they managed to reach this point in their lives. And hopefully this is going to give you a lot of inspiration for doing something similar and to make an impact yourself. Then we have an opportunity to create a roadmap to become effective sustainability leaders. And that's what we hope to have by the end of the night. And finally, we're gonna have an opportunity to network. Of course, this is the Women in Sustainability Network, and that's why we're here. And we're gonna be able to network with other incredible women who are in the same boat, really, and they want to make a difference just like you, and they want to become effective leaders. So this is hopefully your outcomes for this evening. Now, we are very lucky to have Carlotta Cataldi, a really talented graphic recorder who has agreed to draw this evening for us. So because this is going to be a mixture of panel discussions and workshops and lots of ideas that will come out of this evening, it would be incredible to manage, to capture these ideas, and this is what Carlotta is going to do and share her work by the end of the evening with us, but also we are going to share it at the end of the evening for everyone, so probably tomorrow in an email with a follow-up email. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. Once I finish with the presentation, so in 3 minutes time, you can set your view as speaker view, and you will see it at the top right-hand corner of your screen. And that's because we have a panel discussion. So rather than you going and trying to find among 40 faces the panelists, every time someone speaks, they're going to appear really big on your screen. So I think that's going to make to follow the the evening easier. For that reason, I would ask everyone please to put your microphone on mute throughout the panel discussion. But of course, you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions. Now, any questions you might have on top of what you put in the registration box on Eventbrite, please put them in the chat. And then Irene, at the end of the evening, so before, when we have the Q&A session, she's gonna help reading them out and answering them. And of course, there'll be an opportunity for you to speak if you wish to do so. So as I said, questions in the chat, but also introductions. So guys, you're here also for networking. So if you want to introduce yourselves and put perhaps your LinkedIn profile link in there, then it's always a good opportunity to expand your network and know a few more people and met a few more people. Also, if you have, so this is an opportunity to be a bit salesy, which usually is not really allowed in events, but at this stage in the chat you can put any shout outs. So if you have an event coming up or something that you want to tell the others about yourself or your services, this is an opportunity to do that. Perhaps let's do that towards the end of the evening. So let's start with the introductions, and maybe I can give you the goal for shout outs towards the end. If you booked through Eventbrite, which I think everyone did, you should have also should have had an opportunity to download a worksheet. It was in the joining page. However, if you don't have it, the worksheet is for you to work on your own skills and on your own development. So you don't really need it tonight, but it's a good follow-up. It's something that will hopefully cement the ideas that you start forming tonight. And so we're going to also send it tomorrow if you haven't been able to download it tonight. So actually there was something else here. Yeah. No. So if you want to get in touch with us and our hub, please email us at wins@thegreengorilla.co.uk. Obviously, this is one of the activities I do as part of the Green Gorilla, so that's why the email address is the Green Gorilla. Or otherwise, please connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't done that yet. Now, this evening, Olivia is going to help out with any troubleshooting. So if you can't hear, if you can't see, if there is any problem of any sort, please send a private message to Olivia. Irene is going to help out with the questions at the end of the session. Any questions that you have right now before we actually kick off? I can see the chat has been already populated, and I think the girls are keeping an eye on that. Okay, so let's start. So the premise of this event is that it's been published on a number of newspapers and media that female leaders fared a lot better than their male counterparts during COVID. So the first wave, let's say, because now, especially the UK, has officially entered a second wave. But in the first wave, we had better results in terms of lower contagions and lower deaths in countries led by women compared to men. Now, obviously, when they did this piece of research, which was originally published by the Center for Economic Policy Research and the World Economic Forum, they did an analysis across 194 countries, so quite an extensive analysis. But every country has different variables. There are smaller countries and bigger countries. Traveling and transport is different in different countries, and other, many other variables. Now, even taking into account the variables, the difference is quite staggering, and that's why, in the end, the event has been called "Why the World Needs More Jacindas" to tackle the environmental crisis, because New Zealand has been particularly good at that, even compared to, say, Ireland, which is a country of similar size, and the way it's structured as well. So tonight we're going to discuss why is that? Why female leaders have done much better than men, and it's not to be nasty towards men at all. But because it's a fact, we want to really understand what we can learn from these incredible leaders, and how can we translate that from leadership in general into environment and the environmental crisis. So that's where we start. Okay, I'll stop sharing because the presentation that I had is finished here. So now you can put speaker view if you want to follow better the discussion with the panelists. That's right at the right-hand corner. You can see it there. And so anyone that speaks should become bigger in your screen. So I'm gonna now introduce you to our panelists, or rather, I'll let them speak for themselves. So if we start from, let me see, Georgia, do you want to go first? So I'm going to ask our panelists to, for 3 minutes, introduce themselves, share the green career journey until this point, and also tell me if they have one important leadership superpower that they think is actually, the key superpower to have when you are a leader. Georgia.
Wow, okay. I'm going to kick it off. Hi, everybody.
I know you can do it.
I can do it. Yeah, that's fine. Hi, my name's Georgia Elliott-Smith. I am Managing Director of Element 4 Group Consulting. I'm a sustainability consultant, and my background is that I'm an environmental engineer. I started my career as one of the first environment managers in the construction industry in the UK at a company called Bovis, which was then subsequently bought by Lend-Lease. And I started my career, I came out of university, I was a sponsored undergraduate, which that glorious time in the 90s when construction had tons of money to splash about and they were spending it on graduates. So I was a sponsored undergraduate and I came into construction having studied, I was the first year of a course of environmental engineering at my university. So it was all very, very new. And like I say, I came in as one of the first environment managers to be employed in construction. So I came out of skipping out of university, ponytail swinging, going, hey guys, let's all be great to the planet. And I got a quick kicking from practically everybody I spoke to. And yeah, so I had a bit of a, I started out my career on site just basically trying to stop people burning rubbish and chucking tyres in rivers and digging up badger sets. And then we gradually progressed to a place where we had like an environmental management system, and I was training all around Europe and trying to get these roughy tufty construction guys to take it seriously and, put in place systems. And I kind of went from that in my career through, ever increasing sophistication of carbon assessments and proper sustainability, and then things like ethical supply chains and sustainable materials. And anyway, so I've now been in the industry for almost 25 years, and it has changed completely in that time. Now I have, I've had quite an interesting career path. I think I took time out to have children. I spent some time in the film industry. I've run my own business and so on. And now I run a sustainability consultancy in London. I'm also a UNESCO Special Envoy for Youth and the Environment, and I was awarded that position after taking part in an expedition to Antarctica, which was very interesting, and I can't fit into 3 minutes. But I had what I feel was my kind of born again moment in my career last year, when I participated in Extinction Rebellion protest in London, where the pink boat was in the, you might have seen on the news, the pink boat in the Oxford Circus. And I went along to kind of see what it was all about, and I haven't looked back. Basically, I had realized that I had become very jaded in my career. I was used to compromising on everything. And from that moment on, I decided that I wasn't going to compromise anymore. And I've become an environmental activist and campaigner, as well as running my consultancy. And I take a lot of pride in challenging my clients quite heavily on sustainability, and I will not enable greenwash. So that has now led me to today, where I am now taking the UK government to court over the proposed new UK emissions trading scheme and their terrible policy, which will fail to regulate industrial CO2 emissions and also fails to include waste incineration. So hope that stuck to 3 minutes, but that gives you a little insight into my journey and where I am today. So it's lovely to meet you, and I can't wait to meet more of you in the breakout. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Georgia. I'm already inspired. That's it. Okay, let's go to Sean. Do you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Sean Conway. I'm the founder of Ethical Hour, and my journey into this space was a little bit different. I didn't do anything to do with sustainability. I actually did my undergraduate degree in sculpture, and kind of was in the creative arts space and things, but an opportunity came up at the end of that degree to go out to Sierra Leone and work on a volunteer project out there at a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This really, really interesting area kind of on the peninsula, where they were doing research, because it's actually an area where whales come and migrate there. So it was all about kind of researching that. But what I was involved in was helping women in the area set up micro businesses with microfinance. And I just got really interested in, business startup and that side of things. And it's such a beautiful part of the world. It's this gorgeous, lush rainforest, and it's on these beautiful white sandy beaches. And it has quite a bad reputation. When I told my dad I was going to go to Sierra Leone, it did not go down well. He's like, well, isn't there a war there? And I was like, in the 90s, it's relatively safe now. So that was kind of my love for nature and travel came about. And when I came back to the UK, I started working at a startup accelerator program at a university where we were supporting social enterprises. And we started 50 social enterprises in 1 year that all had these amazing social and environmental missions. And that was kind of my awakening to the fact that business can do good. Then went off into the corporate world and sold my soul for a while doing marketing, because I found along the way that I had a real knack for marketing and digital especially. And just hated it from the word go. It was like, this is not for me. You know, I don't belong in a pencil skirt and heels. I don't belong in this space. I don't get along with people here. I just don't care about making people richer in terms of just making profit. And I don't agree with a lot of the decisions that are being made. But stuck it out for a few years. And then really a kind of perfect storm came about. So I actually went on holiday with my mum to Cambodia, and again had one of those travel is amazing and, you know, we really need to look after our planet more kind of moments. And there's a whole story to do with kind of the ethical fashion side that is way too long to tell you all, but I have written about, so I can share links if you want to know more about it. But basically on that trip just decided, you know, I'm in my mid-20s, I've got to stop buying clothes every week, and I've got to stop all this disposable lifestyle and all this plastic and everything. And actually, I love the planet, I love traveling, it really inspires me, and I want to do my bit now. And because I was on social media all the time with my job in marketing, I decided to start connecting with other people that felt the same. And that's really where Ethical Hour started. So today we are a membership community and online network for small business owners with environmental and social purpose. So we give them training in marketing and business development. And we also have a weekly Twitter chat where we come together to talk about these issues. And I always say it was an accidental business because that's where it began. It was about learning from everybody and starting to connect with people that I really got interested and started to build out my knowledge and started to understand more about this stuff and started supporting businesses with a purpose. And then the very kind of long story short is sadly a few years ago, a close friend of mine from childhood passed away pretty suddenly, and it was the shock that I needed to be, you know, I need to get out of corporate, I need to stop going to work every day at a place that I hate with people I've got nothing in common with. You know, they're all lovely, but they're not my friends, doing a job that I don't love. And actually I've got this whole community of people that need my help and my support, and I need them. So that's what I'm going to do. So that was 2.5, nearly 3 years ago, and I have not looked back.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And I think that links very neatly. And I'm going to ask you about the superpowers in a second. I haven't forgotten, so we're going to do it at the end, I think, once we start the panel discussion. Tara, because Tara's business is all about buy something once.
That's right. Hi everyone, I'm Tara Besson. I'm the founder of Buy Me Once, where you can find the longest lasting and most sustainable products on the planet. And I would say I've always been an environmentalist as long as I can remember. I, as a child, started a Save All the Animals group, which mainly involved drawing animals in the library. Not really saving anything, but was very passionate about it as a child, and it kind of really lost my way when I became, you know, a young adult, joining the rat race in London. I ended up in advertising, which was kind of the opposite of what I wanted to be doing, in that it was creative, but it was a little bit like Sean said, it was very soul-sucking. I think one of my briefs that I was given, one of the last briefs that I ever did was, you know, chocolate consumption of children is currently 1 kilogram a year. How can we get it to 2 kilograms? It's like pretty rubbish. And so I was working at this job as a kind of creative copywriter and loving the creativity side, but really struggling with everything else. I was constantly being told, oh, if you care about this, you're in the wrong industry. And eventually I realized that I really was. One of the things that wasn't so bad about my job was one of our brands, which was Le Creuset. And I don't know if any of you guys have come across Le Creuset, but they make these amazing lifetime guaranteed casserole pots. And I was actually given one of these for my 30th birthday. And it was the experience of holding this pot, cooking this pot, that made me realize that everything else in my life was complete rubbish. And I'd just bought all this crap that I was just kind of, for now, like, oh, this will do for now, or I'll probably throw it away, I'll probably replace it. And it kind of got me on this kind of domino effect of thinking, where I was like, well, why isn't everything that I have like this, and why isn't everything that people buy something that, you know, they can tick off their shopping list forever? And I realized that if people did buy in that way, that the environmental impact would be absolutely massive, because instead of buying, you know, 20 frying pans over your lifetime, you'd buy one, and all of that manufacturing and all of that waste and all of that pollution wouldn't have to happen. And it was that realization, and also the realization that no one was really talking about longevity of products in linking it to the environment, that kind of started this kind of niggle effect in my mind. I actually ignored this idea for about 4 years, but I started to get this kind of literal kick in the stomach feeling whenever I read anything about the environment, because I was like, you know, you've got this idea and you should really do something about it. But I just kept on expecting someone else to do it, I think, because it seemed like such a no-brainer. Why isn't there a website or a shop that just finds the longest lasting stuff? You know, surely that must exist. I kept expecting it to exist, to be honest. And then when it still, you know, wasn't arriving, I was like, fine, I don't know how to start a website or build, you know, I've never run a shop, obviously. I decided to go out looking for all these products, and I started to find them. I think one of my favorites that I found quite early on was these socks with a lifetime guarantee, and they're amazing. I like all my socks now are these socks. They're bloody brilliant. And that just made me realize that that this is something that could happen. And so I started building the website, and very early on I had about 100 products on the site, so it wasn't really a shop yet. It wasn't even monetized, to be honest, and it went viral. About 600,000 people came to the website in like a week. And I was offered to go on television and a book deal, and, you know, it was like a movie. Yeah, huge amounts of kind of upheaval, and I literally walked into my boss's office, quit my job the next day, and was like, I'm going to be doing this now. And luckily he was very cool and said, yeah, sure, you can leave tomorrow, which was pretty cool. Since then, Buy Me Once has been doing really well. I've left them to be on maternity for the last 4 months, and it's been going great guns while I was away, so I should have left earlier, obviously. So that's really good. And I've recently started another business which is linked, but it's an online application where you know, lots of people want to buy sustainably, but when they actually go shopping, they forget that they care about the environment, because they're on Amazon and they just want to buy something quickly. So this is an application that can see what you're looking at when you're shopping, and it pops up with a more sustainable alternative. So say you're looking at a crappy frying pan, it will go, oh, there's a more sustainable version of this and you can buy it here. And that's just launched in beta, and actually if anyone would like to download it and tell me what they think about it, that would be great. It's called the Beagle Button.
Fantastic. Oh my god, fantastic. By the way, I got on my wish list the espresso machine, the one that you do like this, and
Amazing.
I love my coffee, so it's, you know, I'm waiting for mine to break down, so obviously.
Yes, absolutely. Don't buy anything you don't need.
Exactly. Fantastic story there. Oh wow. Okay, next, Kate.
Thank you. What brilliant stories so far. It's been so exciting hearing about everybody else's stories. I only knew a little bit, but to hear from the horse's mouth, sorry to all your horses, but I do love horses, so that's okay. Right, so my story, I guess it's about activism as well as sustainability, and I know George has already talked about that a little bit too. I remember when I was quite a young teenager and I was talking to my dad and just said, I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. And he only said one thing. He just said, do something you're passionate about. And I remember at the time trying to work out what that was. And I kind of merged passion with anger at the time, with outrage. And I grew up in Australia in the 80s, and for anyone that's as old as me, you might remember that HIV and AIDS was a disease that there was no cure for, there was really no treatment for, and people were dying and being very badly treated in the media and by governments and by society. And it was really making me angry. The older I got, when I went to university, I did know some people who were infected and lots of people who were affected by the disease, and there was just not enough good information. So I started volunteering, I started going to activist groups about it, and I started trying to spread information by working at information centres as a volunteer. And I did that when I came to London as well. And actually, this is going to connect to where I got to in my life later. I was working as a volunteer for an organisation called Body and Soul. This was in the mid-90s by this time. And Anita and Gordon Roddick, Anita Roddick was the founder of The Body Shop, became the patrons of that charity. So we had quite a lot to do with them, and I met them and their family, and was just really inspired by the powerhouse that was Anita Roddick. Anyway, in my working life, I actually worked for a PR consultancy, and I totally understand other people's points of view about feeling like, you know, maybe you're a money-making machine, you're having to sell your soul. I was very lucky in that I managed one job I got 20 years ago when I was working for a big agency called Hill & Knowlton, was working with an energy company that partnered with Greenpeace, and I got to lead a brilliant project back then about a campaign for wind farms and for renewable electricity. And I totally got the bug. I mean, I'd always been interested in the environment, but I'd never really worked in that space, and I'd never used my PR skills to further knowledge in that way and to campaign. And I loved working with Greenpeace. I was just smitten with them completely. And I went on and on and on about it at the business. And I was pretty much given all the work and was able to pitch for and identify other work that might have been in the same vein. So it wasn't my only work, but throughout my career in PR agencies, I was able to do a lot of really interesting CSR and sustainability programs for HSBC, for B&Q, Kingfisher, big and small, and taught me a lot, and I found it really interesting as well. It wasn't just environmental, it was also social justice too. I was lucky enough to work with LGBTQ plus charity Stonewall in helping them become trans inclusive about 6 years ago. That was really interesting and taught me a lot too. 5 years ago, I got a phone call from someone late at night, a good friend of mine, who said, I want to introduce you to someone. And it was the CEO, the then CEO of The Body Shop at the time. And we got on very well. And he was looking for somebody, and eventually I got the job as the Director of Communications globally at The Body Shop. That then expanded to be activism as well as communications. And I worked at The Body Shop for 5 years, which was in many ways my dream job. I absolutely adored it. I launched their global sustainability strategy. We worked on biodiversity programs. I was lucky enough to travel to amazing parts of the world, to the Amazon in Brazil and Peru, to Vietnam. I went to visit our community trade, which is fair trade programs in Africa, in Asia. I mean, it was amazing. And I also launched a big campaign, Forever Against Animal Testing, which was a relaunch of The Body Shop's original campaign against cosmetic animal testing. And we got 8.3 million signatures of support for a petition against cosmetic animal testing in 15 months. And it really made me understand the power of integrated communications for campaigning. How to use social media effectively, how to really inspire people, some of the things about campaigning for issues that you really care about, inspiring people. And I think a lot of us will probably be familiar with, for this issue, not making people feel guilty and upset about their actions, but inspiring them and empowering them to do positive things. Anyway, I decided to leave kind of bang in the middle of COVID. Partly it was a personal reason, and that was because one of my kids was having real trouble with lockdown and with homeschooling, and I just felt that I really needed to be a lot more with her at the time. So I finished my job at the Body Shop and set up on my own. So I have literally just begun as Kate Levine Consulting, doing brand activism and sustainability communications and purpose work with companies big and small. And I'm loving it so far, though it's taking a little bit of getting used to working for myself. And I'm sure I would love to hear from you guys who are all a lot more well-versed in doing that, about, you know, some of the do's and don'ts. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. And we got the power of communication is so important, and I know lots of you actually use that as a way of making an impact. So I think that's a common thread there. Giovanna, last but not least, dulcis in fundo, we said in Latin when I used to study Latin.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's been really nice to listen to everyone talk about their own personal stories. A brief introduction about myself. I am originally from South America, Bolivia, Santa Cruz specifically. I've been in the UK for 20 years, and I've been in corporate responsibility, sustainability for almost a decade. And I have to admit, I entered the world of corporate responsibility and sustainability by accident. I say that, but now that I look back at my parents' journey and what I really wanted to pursue at university, and I was actually seeking precisely that, to help organizations understand the impact they deliver. And in terms of what was the turning point for me was, I've worked with organizations across the world. I've had the privilege to work in different regions, Latin America, Asia Pacific, US, UK, Europe. And what I started to realize over the years as I worked for organizations as well as a consultant was that all the big corporates and medium, small, large corporates, they were all trying to find the best way to talk about their journeys. And what I found is there was a mixture of approaches and a mixture of ideas, and there was a lot of people that were idealistic. I met a few, and I've had the privilege to meet a few Georgias in my life that I could see that they had an incredible passion and they wanted to demonstrate sustainability and purpose linked, and they had this energy, but they were always put down by the lack of budget, the lack of support. The leadership didn't understand. The leadership was looking at it as a cost. They always aligned it with marketing and communications and never really looked at it as impact. You go to a point where after representing tech solutions, which is something that I'm very, very in favor of, I realized there is a lot of greenwashing, unintentional and intentional. When I discovered the intentional, there was a point where I thought, I can't be part of this journey. This is rubbish. I'm not going to be part of this sort of work. It's not what it says it is. And I remember coming home saying to my husband, I have seen the worst of this data, and it's fiddled. It's put into reports and it's presented to the world as if it's, you know, an amazing piece of work. And I can't do this anymore. And he said to me, well, do something about it. And I thought, but what can I possibly do about it? I work for a company. I work with clients. I need to do what they want. And, you know, it is what it is. And I thought, So the book actually was put in my heart and my mind by him. So I started to try to work out, what do I do? It got to a point where I met consultants that were very passionate about what they were doing. They really delivered some support to organizations. They were really trying to, you know, steer the boat differently. And I thought, who's looking after them? What is happening with this community? I started to get more involved in the community and understand where people were coming from. And I've also had the privilege to be part of the climate strike in London. But what really, really turned my heart is going to the climate strike in Bolivia, in South America, in the middle of the Amazon fires, and seeing generations that are really demonstrating that they care about the future in a way that I admit I didn't myself. I didn't think the future was in my hands, but they're taking charge and they're looking at thinking we need to do something about it together. And they're talking about partnerships in a way that we weren't told. And I say we, assuming everybody's around the same age here. But, you know, I'm 43 and I do not remember talking that way to my friends and colleagues. I do remember challenging certain things, but never like this. So I've had the privilege to meet someone who is in the same mindset, is following the same journey, but has come up with a very different proposition, which is how I got involved with Woken Up. In the midst of a journey where I've been involved in climate strife, I've been working with consultants, I've worked with pretty much every brand you can think of, SaaS platforms. You know, I was there thinking, what can I do, you know, to change things? And I started to collaborate with Simon. I started to work with Woken Up, and Woken Up became something that got me to realize there is a possibility here where everybody, there can be an environment where everybody that has a passion and a desire to do something about the environment, about social impact, can come together and collaborate. And I started to talk about it more and more. Admittedly, and I think everybody is going to agree with this, is probably the most challenging industry, because there is no budget, there is very little legislation to support us, leaders are still learning, and we are trying to change things. So it's a push, it's uphill for sure. But I can say with absolute confidence to all those who are trying to pursue this journey in sustainability, social impact, environmental impact, I have never been happier. There isn't a day that I don't wake up in the morning that I cannot wait to talk to the community, to different people. Everybody I meet, I learn something new from them. And it's just been a fantastic opportunity to grow and develop. And I know, Virginia, you said at the end we will discuss our superpower. But I have to say, I don't think I have a superpower. But I do feel very privileged to say that I do have a lot in common with everybody here. When I realize that is that we're all doing our best and we haven't given up. And I do think that can be said that is a superpower, because, you know, it takes certain resilience and a lot of strength. So that's about me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giovanna. Another super inspiring story. And also another perspective, you know, another side of the world where things are perceived slightly differently as well, you know, according to the challenges. And the superpower resilience is an incredible superpower to have in this day and age and in sustainability, I think. So guys, if you're happy with that, we're running a little late, but I think everyone has enjoyed listening to your stories, so I didn't want to interrupt anyone because it was so interesting and inspiring. So let's start our little panel discussion. And everyone else, if you want to pop questions in the chat, our volunteers are going to have a look, and if needed, we're going to, you know, obviously maybe not stop in a minute, but we can answer them later. So the idea here is that we're going to discuss what are the key strengths of women leaders and what makes them different. What is the superpower? What are the superpowers? Because I reckon it's not just one thing. So who wants to start? Between Kate, Georgia, Sean, Tara and Giovanna. And you can all unmute yourselves, so you don't, well, you guys.
I don't mind starting, because I started with the description and then completely forgot to say my superpower. So I believe, and I was thinking about this when we had our sort of pre-meet discussion, I think for me it's got to be courage, because I think that being not only a woman, invariably in a room where I'm the only woman, and I guess that the company we're in feel very much the same, but also being passionate about sustainability means that I experience, and I imagine many others experience, feeling very different from everybody else in that room. And I think it takes real courage to stand up and be heard and not to be either shouted down or spoken over or dismissed. So that would be mine.
Courage, absolutely.
I forgot to say my superpower too.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about this. I mean, there's a few of them, but I think the one that has probably stood me in the greatest stead is the ability to get out of my head and into other people's heads exactly what I'm talking about. So this ability to kind of communicate a hopeful vision of of a world that is better, I
Yeah.
think is definitely been the one that has probably driven my business best of all.
Thanks, Tara. I completely agree with you on that one. And I was going to say something similar, actually. I guess I found a quote this week. We've seen probably so many quotes from the wonderful Ruth Bader Ginsburg over the last few weeks. Legendary. And this quote, I think, is really important for sustainability. Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to you. So it's about inclusivity, it's about collaboration, it's about persuasiveness. Make sure that you bring people with you, or we won't get where we need to get. And I think women are really good at doing that, generally.
I agree, and I think it's interesting that so many of us have described some form of background in communication, and I think one of the things that's maybe underrated and that we maybe don't see from all of our leaders at the moment is the ability to really, really, truly listen, and to come into a conversation, come into an environment and kind of leave your ego at the door and just actually really listen. And I think sometimes when we're engaging in that activism and we're really passionate, you know, we want to lead and we want to lead the charge, but you have to ask, am I the right person to lead this? Am I the right person to hold this conversation? Who else is in this space? Who else can I connect with? And do that deep listening work. And I think some people have got better at that this year, in particular. You know, we've seen a real call for that, and you know, a lot of people like me, white people, are getting kind of attuned to the work that we need to do with anti-racism and social justice. But the big lesson with that, and we're so lucky in a way that we're learning it, but also we're so late, is that we need to listen, and I don't think we see enough of that.
So great. Joanna, do you have?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I was just thinking about the quote that Kate just shared, and I've always been encouraged to be participant in welcome teams and or events or things where people need to come on board on the journey, and that is, I guess, is a way of describing a superpower, because it is something that I enjoy doing so very much, but it's probably because I don't think about me when I'm doing it. I'm thinking about the other people. I hate people being left behind or put to one side. I just find that really difficult, because I always think we're missing out. If we leave someone outside the room, what are we, you know, we're missing the opportunity to learn from them. So I've always had that in my heart, that people need to have that openness. Let's listen and see what happens. At the end of the day, you just don't know what will come out of a conversation. And that's led me to develop my network in a very meaningful way, because it's not just about getting to connect with people, but I want to know them. I really want to understand what their passion is, where they're coming from. And I found that my area of expertise in my consultancy is business development. And I found that to open opportunities for me to have conversations that lead into partnerships that turn into business, but good business, impactful business, purpose-led business. So I think that's really important, that there is a lot of talk around leadership at the moment because of COVID. One of the things that I've noticed is there is a talk about leadership without really describing what is it that means now. And I think it's the reason why they're trying to pull a lot of quotes from the likes of, you know, Ruth, all those people that have demonstrated that leadership in a way that women do. Just like someone said, women have that ability to lead in a more, I'm not going to say maternal, because it's not necessarily maternal. It's about embracing people. It's about welcoming, getting people to feel that they're part of something.
So do you think that this is the main, and that's the question for all of you ladies, is this the main reason why these women leaders did so well compared to men? Or are there other things?
I think that they had to just be so damn good, so much better than the men to get to where they are, that I feel that they've had to be political, they've had to be ambitious, they've had to be brilliant, they've had to be able to bring people along, they've had to be persuasive, and they haven't had the privilege of automatically being welcomed into those rooms. So I just think those women, and you know, not just women, but I also think, you know, look at Obama. I mean, an incredible guy, and this just demonstrating some great qualities that I see in female leaders as well. But also, as a black man in America, to get to that place just had to be so much better than the people that he was up against. And maybe I think that is why the female leaders are so successful, because they're just better.
That's really interesting, Georgia, because there was someone not long ago that asked me that question around, did I find it difficult to do well in the UK because I am an immigrant, because I'm a woman. And I said to them, I think it was in an interview, it might have been Sharon talking to me about it, it is about, yes, there will be things said about you, no matter who you are or what you do, but obviously we're on the back foot. I don't know, we're changing that, but we're on the back foot, right? But if we allow all those things to distract us and stop us from moving forward, we're not going to get to the point of delivering impact and helping others. Jacinda famously said that once she was told that she was weak because she cared about people. I have been told that in an environment where I couldn't defend myself, I was put down by a male leader, manager, boss, person, someone who was superior to me, and said to me, "You are never going to be a leader because you care about people too much." And I could have believed that, and I could have thought to myself, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I need to change and be more like him. But I fought back. It took me more than a week to recover from the shock, because it was a shock. And I thought, you know what? I care about people. I don't care about what this man said to me. It was horrendous. It was traumatic. But I will continue to care about people, because at the end of the day, people will be on my funeral and they will be caring about what I did for them. I want to deliver impact. So, and she's been told that. And how many more other women leaders get told that? You're only a woman, or what do you know, and things like that. We just move forward, don't we? Keep going.
Now, Tanya asked a question in the chat, is it that women are more able to put their ego aside than men? Is it an ego issue?
Some of it may be about ego, some of it's about kind of styles of leaders that get elected. I mean, if you look at the people who did worst during this crisis, it's, you know, it is the macho man, it is the Trumps and, you know, the Borises and that awful Brazilian
Bolsonaro.
Why, you know, it's the ones who have kind of traded on this machoism, where maybe it is not seen as, maybe it is seen as weak to care, and it's not part of that style. It's like they're kind of mavericks who, you know, don't care what other people think, and that's why people love them. They say it how it is. They, you know, and I think that kind of clashes with the ability to really empathize and really get into you know, what people's lives will be like if they are impacted by this virus. I think there's this kind of disconnect there, because they're out there trying to be strong. It kind of cuts them off from this ability to empathize, because they, you know, inconceivably and very wrongly feel that that's weak.
I think it's interesting that you say that. Sorry.
No, go on, Georgia. Go on.
It just brought up for me that somebody said that to me in a side meeting where we were talking about sustainability, and then somebody outside the room said, "You realise that these guys will never care about sustainability because they're too macho, and the idea of caring about the environment and social value and those things, they're never going to talk about it around a table because they don't want to be seen to be being soft." So I think that it's a really interesting similarity about caring about things is not the values that we've put on leaders.
Do you know, I don't know whether you guys know the book, The Charisma Myth, by Olivia Fox-Cobain. Anyway, that book explains charisma in a way that I found interesting, because obviously there's power and there's presence, which most, you know, men leaders as well have, but there is also warmth. So the best leaders actually show a degree of warmth, and different leaders have charisma. They go into one area and the other one. But people like Jacinda Ardern is obviously a warm leader. Is someone who cares. And but then you got the Dalai Lama, which arguably has a lot of charisma, is a fantastic leader, and is warm. So it's not that every man, that's the other thing. I didn't want to, to give the wrong impression to this, to this audience. Actually, obviously, is the alpha male, is that, a type that carries, unfortunately, that ego with them and, personal interest versus the warmth and the caring element. But that's not to say that it has to be just a female trait. For me, it can be obviously something that men can embrace, and unfortunately this seems to be like a social pressure from centuries of pressure on men as well to behave in a certain way.
I think there is something a bit connected as well with competition too, which is and it's not to say that women aren't competitive, and as Georgia said before, the two women that we were talking about, Angela Merkel and Jacinda, but also other women leaders, of course they've had to be competitive and they've had to win to get where they are. But I think this sense of winning at all costs and compete rather than collaborate, I think is conscious capitalism is a different way of thinking. It's about working together in collective action. And I think the macho man usually is the super competitive one. America first. Let's put us before anyone else. Let's think about me and let's think about this and how we get together, rather than what do we like as society and how things are connected. And I think that's really important for solving the issues around climate change as well.
Well, when you think that you're the center of the universe, you're going to be very lonely, very boring, I think. At the end of the day, the beautiful thing about us being in one world is that we can connect with each other. And I don't know if everybody agrees with me, but have you noticed how COVID has created more connections than ever? Yeah. With organizations and people that are, maybe we wouldn't have had the opportunity to see because of travel, and we're trying to make a difference on travel as well, and environmental impact. So this has not closed the doors for us. It has opened a different window. I found that there is a lot more opportunity to have more meaningful conversations, a bit more time, more open-minded, and with the opportunity to deliver solutions of how we can present things to governments to really start to change things. Because in the past, in the last maybe 10 years, there's been a lot of arguing, trying to push change, but it hasn't happened in the way that we should have. And perhaps this is going to give us the opportunity to work together differently and deliver change that will be a bit more meaningful. And at the same time, it keeps us a bit more focused. Because what I find is, if you get too distracted with the bad leaders, you fall into it. Like I said, the experience I had, I could have spent the remainder of my employment with them, with this organization, focusing on how badly this gentleman was treating me and how incredibly bad he was as a leader. But funnily enough, what happened is that because of the bad leadership he displayed, his entire team were trying to find comfort in me and identify the best way to help them. What did we do? We created a team and we worked together differently, and we supported the clients better. So, there are ways that we can do things, but that shouldn't be the norm. That should not be the norm. And there is an aspect of that makes me think, maybe I should have done something differently, so no one else had to put up with that in his organization. So that's always going to be something that is a question mark in my life. As women leaders, we've all encountered something similar. Should we do something about changing it? How do we do it? And we all know what's going on in the other side of the world. So,
yeah, I think there's an element there that really highlights why in the UK we're in the mess that we're in with COVID. I think the moment that stuck out for me was when Jacinda said, we will not even entertain the idea of herd immunity. And at the time that she said that, obviously we were very much entertaining that idea in the UK. And for me, that was her saying, we're not leaving anybody behind in this. And we've seen so many people say we're all in the same boat, and we're absolutely not. We're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat at all. And I think what has become so clear in the UK is the level of corruption and you look at the route to power, like Georgia said, you know, how these men have got into these positions, and you know, their friends around them and where the money's going and all of that. And I think the moment for me that we completely lost any sort of handle on this was the Dominic Cummings issue. And we won't go into it because I'm sure you're all as angry as I am. But that was the moment that it was like, you know, we can't trust that the people in power are making decisions in our best interest, and we are not a team. And actually what we needed with this was to be a team. And like you said, Giovanna, it's that coming together, and it's that making sure that nobody is left behind. And actually, I think, I don't know about anybody else, I feel completely left behind by our government. I feel like they don't represent me at all. I have no trust that they will make the right decisions for the things that I believe in. And so it's very, very hard then to not get jaded. And if you are in a relatively privileged position, to not just switch off. You know, if you're not the most vulnerable, if you're not relying on food banks and universal credit and things, if you are relatively comfortable, it's very hard not to switch off. And I think that's when things become dangerous, because if the people that have that level of privilege but aren't, you know, top of the pecking order start to switch off, that's when people do get left behind, and that's when it starts costing lives.
Yeah, lack of consistency for sure has created a lot of unnecessary chaos.
There is one element in, you know, one piece of the puzzle in the articles that I studied to create this event tonight. They actually recognize that morals and ethics in those countries that did better were privileged to profit. So the countries that did worst obviously privileged economy, while the other countries, so the female-led countries, actually prefer to people, which is a very interesting. So there is money in there, there is ego, there is a lot of what Shanja, you just said. And also another thing that they said is that actually these women were more proactive. They took decision quickly, on their feet. I mean, at that point, nobody knew what was best or worse, if you think about it. But they followed their heart, obviously, in a way, or, you know, what they thought was right from an ethical point of view. That's, anyway, my point, and something that I didn't say before because I didn't want to address the conversation in that particular angle. But interesting, isn't it?
I think it's good to have that kind of conversations and address the things that have been worrying us, because we do have to come up with a way of doing things differently as women. If we are taking the role of leaders, and that always petrifies me, but we need to learn from the experiences that we're going through. Turning our mess into a message is not a bad thing to do. But yeah, of course, we're having the opportunity to assess the whole picture here and compare what other countries, certain countries have done differently and so on. Interestingly, when I was in South America and I participated in the climate strike for the fires, as soon as I left, not that I had anything to do with it, they kicked out a dictator that was there for 14 years. And the person that took over power, the interim president, is female. And she also had a very different approach. Sadly, she is surrounded by male advisors. And everybody has now realized the difference between when she makes a decision than when they make the decision for around COVID and how people are being treated. And that I found that fascinating, because it's in Latin America there is less filter in the way that the news are shared. So there isn't a political handle at the moment, because, you know, everybody is free to speak. So they're showing pretty much black and white what happens when she says, we're going to do this for people. Then her handlers say, no, we can't do that because of that. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's almost frightening.
Now, ladies, I have to stop this debate, although I could happily keep on going until 10 o'clock. But we need to now go into our breakout rooms with our participants, so that everyone has a chance to say something about it. And the questions that we're going to discuss in the breakout rooms is, we need to come up with the ultimate list of strengths. So what strength do you think we really need? Maybe let's come up with 3 for each room. So the ultimate list of these 3 top strengths that we need to have as women leaders. And also it would be great to have a little discussion about the main barriers. Why don't we manage to enable those strengths to, in our lives, in our leadership, and in our workplaces. Okay, so list of strengths, and perhaps come up with 3. We're going to reconvene at the end to share that. It's only a 10-minute session, so a quick introduction from each one in the room, and then let's discuss strengths and then main barriers. So I'm going to create the breakout rooms now. We got 43 participants. We're going to do, we can do 8 rooms, and I'm gonna open them now for 10 minutes. Fantastic. Okay, so I don't know whether you read the note saying that the person with the letter that comes first in the alphabet should actually be a spokesperson for that room. So sorry, Amy, Anna, and everyone else with that A in their names. So shall we start from room 1? What are your, if you remember your rooms, of course, your rooms numbers? I can probably help. But okay, room number 1 was Amy Bloom, Amy Barnett, Cara, Sharon Brunton, and Sean. So Amy or Amy, can you tell us, yeah, that's nice. Can you tell us the 3 top strengths that you came up with?
3 top strengths we had were intuition, courage, and compassion. Would you ladies agree with that?
Yeah, sounds good. Did you find also some barriers? What's the main barrier to leadership for women?
We didn't really talk about barriers to leadership for women, to be honest. We were just had a great introduction, and we, I'll be honest, lost track of time a little bit.
No problem. So you said intuition,
courage, and compassion.
Courage and compassion. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No worries, no worries. Room 2, Emma, Philippa, hi Philippa, Georgia, Irene, and Megan. So will be Emma?
Sure, I'll see what I can remember. I might have to refer to Georgia, who was taking notes. So we had, for strengths, we talked about resilience, we talked about vulnerability, and Georgia, you'll have to remind me of the other one.
Hello. I sort of arrived in the room and just took charge. It wasn't, so I just took loads of notes. Inclusivity, resilience, and vulnerability were the 3, weren't they?
That was it.
And we were so busy, we were busy chatting, so we didn't have loads of debate about it. But then our barriers were lack of awareness, so that kind of privilege, that so not even being aware that other people are struggling was one barrier. Imposter syndrome came up as another one. Likability was mentioned. Not everyone agreed, so trying to be, fit in and be likable. And then at the end we talked about the boys club, and the fact that people promoting their image, they play golf together, it's very, very difficult as an outsider to try, or as someone who's different, to try and fit into that. And yeah,
love it. Yeah, and from the research that I'm aware of, actually, well, no, I don't want to get in there because I want to listen to the other rooms and what they have to say, so I'm not going to jump in. Room number 3, Karen, Lillian, Ruby, Samantha, and Sarah, and it will be Lillian, no, Karen, sorry, my alphabet. Oh, Karen.
Yeah, I think so we came up with collaboration, creativity, and then we all said compassion and empathy were the strengths. And then the barriers, we were saying always striving to be perfect. Perfection is a real problem when it comes to a lot of women, and also trying to compete like men instead of in our own, doing things our own way.
Fantastic. So you said collaboration, creativity, compassion, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. Breakout room 4 were Carrie, Claire, Giovanna, Katie, and Rachel, and it will be Claire, if that's okay.
Oh, I think I'm nominated to do it.
Okay, Carrie. Oh, sorry. It's again my alphabet at this time of the day doesn't really work. I need to go
That's
back
okay.
to elementary school. Carrie, yeah.
It's okay. So we got compassion, inclusivity, and be comfortable in your own skin. So just accept, you are female, and just be acceptance to yourself, really. We didn't really have time to talk about barrier. We're too busy chatting as well.
That's absolutely fine and perfect. Thank you, Carrie. And so break room number 5, Aileen, Jackie, Kate, Talia, and Zainab. So Zainab, you're very lucky. Aileen.
Hi. So I don't want to imply that we perhaps were chat bagging, but we did come up with a few strengths and made some good connections between us, but no barriers. So picking up different to what you ladies have already mentioned, authenticity. Just being true to ourselves. Emotional intelligence was another one that came up. The ability to network well because we listen. I call it like heart listening rather than just head listening for the give me the facts. They sort of listen. They actually say, and what do you do? As opposed to this is what I do. So.
Absolutely. I'm glad emotional intelligence came up because it is probably the one that encompasses all the stuff that we just said, from empathy to authenticity to listening to others. And so fantastic. Did you talk about the barriers as well?
We may have run out of time.
We didn't do that.
That's okay. That's absolutely right. We got already some barriers said, but you know what? They boil down to a couple. So I think they've been already mentioned, but we'll make the point in a second. Breaker room 6, Jessica, Jordan, Julia, lots of J's, Katie and Lola. Who's the spokesperson there? Don't make me try my alphabet again.
We had 3 J's, so I'm happy just to summarize quickly. I'm laughing at the fact we all just went into our groups and just had a really good chin wag. And maybe timekeeping is a barrier to women. But I think if I talk about maybe the barriers more, because a lot of people did the other one, we all pretty much agreed on the fact that confidence is annoyingly a huge barrier. Not even putting yourself forward for something, but a man in your same situation definitely would. So yeah, I think confidence and maybe self-worth is an issue for women because, self-belief.
Yeah, totally agreeing there. Breakout room 7, Heidi, Kiru, Maria, Rachel, and Tara. That would be...
Thanks, Fee.
Hey!
Okay, our list of strengths were the human touch, which I think is the same way of saying what we've been saying, courage and authenticity, so repeating what everyone else has said. I think we've got some new ones for barriers. We've raised perfectionism, but from an insecurity point of view. So somebody mentioned that it was important to be aware of how many times in a day you said, let me check. And that certainly is something to think about. Also people pleasing. So the need to be collaborative, but potentially not in a proactive and useful way. And then, insecurity in a tough environment. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, not perfect, unfortunately, but
no, not perfect.
That's it. It's good to be imperfect. It's good to be imperfect. So last room was breakout room 8 with Kate, Nikki, Olivia, Rosie, and Sabina. So Kate.
Right, okay, thank you. So we said empathy, intuition, and combined with that, a trust in the heart as well as the head. And the last one was a mixture of accountability and humility. And accountability, and what we meant by that was the ability to say, okay, I put my hand up, I didn't get it right this time, or, you know, we can look at it a different way, or I need to get some more information in to move in a different way. So I think I'm accountable for what I've said so far, and I'm open enough to change it, maybe do it in a different way. So it was a mixture of accountability and humility. And one of the blockers that we talked about was about the fact that there's a sort of general perception and, you know, the understanding of leadership being a lot of other qualities that we're talking about, accountability in a different way, you know, maybe different kinds of qualities that don't necessarily bring in these ones. And then on the flip side, we also said something that can be an enabler or can counteract that blocker is that great post that probably a lot of us saw on social media from Jacindas saying, you know, people that we've already spoken about today, people talk about, you know, this kindness and compassion as weakness. No, we think that is a great test of leadership and a great strength. And we need to challenge that more. We need to challenge the perceived idea of leadership and say it's not about macho men.
Yeah. Amazing, ladies. Honestly, what an incredible list. Carlotta, I don't know how you're recording this, because this is like pure gold for everyone, I think.
Done.
Oh, wow. Magic, Carlotta. So you can see how certain themes are recurring in, you know, whichever way you look at them. A lot of what you need is, you know, empathy and emotional intelligence and collaboration and all these, you know, thinking about others probably before you think about your ego. And but at the same time, the flip side is that you want to be liked by others and you want to check and double check. And so obviously it's almost like the same, you know, the same coin, the same, you know, the two faces of the coin. I think, and that's anyway my personal interpretation, but a lot of self-acceptance, again, it's almost like we're more like we're more social animals than, you know, than egos as females. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Something like that. Okay, so I apologize in advance. This is the time that the event should have stopped, but if you want to stay with us, we're going to keep on going for a little while more. We have another breakout room for 10 minutes, and then we're going to, again, you know, share and then ask any questions, if that's okay. Anyone that wants to leave, I'm recording the session, you can, and we will send the recording tomorrow. Otherwise, it'd be lovely to have as many of you to stay as possible. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know about you, but I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm going to open the rooms again, same rooms, so you don't need to introduce yourselves again, and you work with the same people. And this time we're going to talk about what can we do then with these amazing strengths that we have identified. How can we translate them into our sustainability work? And what individual actions can we take to tackle the environmental crisis using those strengths? This is not easy. This is not a straightforward answer. I feel until this point we have talked about things that more or less we all agree. But let's see how can we translate these strengths into our sustainability work. So good luck. I'm going to open the rooms again for another 10 minutes. Ta-da! Hello everyone. I'm so curious about this now, very curious. So let's start. Room number one of the two Amy's.
Yeah, I can do it. I can't see Amy on the other Amy on my screen, so
it's okay. You can go ahead. So what did you come up with? So how can we transform those strengths? How can we translate them into the sustainability work we do?
We spoke about, Sharon made a really great point about when you're dealing with people who have different views on the world to you, and that especially those who come from maybe a different familial background or have different priorities to where you are at the moment, that ability to we spoke about it a little bit before, about that female intuition, that emotional intelligence, meeting people where they are. Thank you, Sharon. And we spoke about taking the bull by the horns. If we have it within us, that strength and that power, we've got so much passion already, we just need to display that to the world.
Fabulous. Anyone else in the room wants to add anything else? Did you capture all? Yeah. Okay. Breakout room 2, Emma, Filippa, Georgia, and Irene. So Emma or Georgia, whoever wants to speak.
Who would like to?
I could give a very brief summary, but I'm sure Georgia's going to say it better than I am. So we talked about, being authentic and just kind of marrying your personal life and your professional life in the cases where you're trying to make professional change into one, and living your passion, letting that show through work, and not letting anyone stand in your way or take any of their bullshit. Irene touched on the confidence to stand up and say what you believe. So that was my very brief summary. If anyone has anything to add, please feel free.
I think you forgot suing the government for what?
Well, that does lead on neatly to something that was said in the room. Actually, is about being comfortable in yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. So I think that comes. It's quite rare that somebody has that at the beginning of their career. It's wonderful when people do, but I think it comes from experience of just feeling comfortable to take people on in this, because it's a place where you do need to be able to stand your ground, and you've got to feel comfortable inside your skin, I think, to do that. And then the importance of being a role model to others as well, because if people can see it, if people can see that you're passionate about the subject, then they will emulate that and they'll be attracted to it, rather than this kind of telling people what they should do. It's that kind of, the one way of doing it is you should do that, and the other one is I'm doing this, do you want to come with me? And that kind of bringing people along with you.
Fantastic. In fact, confidence has been demonstrated scientifically that increases with age in both male and female, but obviously we sort of catch up at one point, male and females, and but it does increase with age. And I
think authentic confidence, for me, I've always been a confident person, but when I was younger, it was much more on the surface, and inside I felt like a fraud. But as I get older, I kind of feel like I just have it, a bit more. Obviously, stuff still terrifies me, but I feel much more confident in myself.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with you in that sense. I think we're in the same age bracket anyway. Okay, so breakout room 3, Karen, Lillian, Ruby, Samantha, and Sarah, and probably Karen.
Yep, okay, I was furiously writing while we were in there. So it's quite a lot. Join forces, network, and collaborate. Include bigger circles of people who are not necessarily eco, to get input from different perspectives and also influence more people. Be curious. Have a relatable message, so seeing also where others are coming from, so not dictating. I think that's going on what Georgia was saying as well. Don't dictate, show people along the way. Using the social media, because it's a free tool to get to so many more people, which you wouldn't be able to have done in the past. Collectively, we can have a ripple effect to get people to join and champion the cause. Small steps, changing minds one at a time. Fight for equal numbers of men and women in Parliament, so we've got more of a say and people to listen to our requests and policies. And just one thing that I thought I'd just add at the end, what I did last year was I bought all my clients, all my friends and family eco gifts, and because they wouldn't necessarily buy it themselves, so I refused to buy on Amazon. I did it all locally. I wrapped it all in compostable stuff, all scraps I'd got from something, and that had a massive influence on a lot of people. So.
Fantastic list and very actionable, I would say. I think you guys focus on that. Fantastic. So from, the small step, I wouldn't, I'm picking just one because it's so important. We sometimes as individuals feel like, what difference can I make? It's just one person. But actually, one person is, one drop in the ocean. But when you put all these drops together, is the actual ocean. And one small step makes things much more actionable, really. If you start small, and then it will grow. And we got plenty of examples of individuals that have made a difference just as individuals and got masses behind them. And we know a lot of people in the environment are doing that. Thank you so much. Then we got Giovanna, Katie, and Rachel. Katie, I suppose. Giovanna.
I don't know. Is Carrie still on?
I can't see her in
I'll do it. So we were really talking first about inclusivity and how to expand our network. I think it's been raised before as well in terms of bringing other people along with us, not necessarily people who live the same values as us, not necessarily male leaders, people worried about profit over people, that kind of stuff. And I think that actually segued nicely into a personal mission of mine was that I report into 3 men who were old enough to be my dad, and I feel super intimidated most of the time, speaking up particularly over like video calls. So we kind of linked in a big part of our conversation before was about authenticity and really being true to ourselves and not getting wrapped up in that, oh my goodness, what are they going to think about me? They have different views to me. They're not going to listen, and just leading from the front. And then also raising awareness by being a leader in yourself that people can think differently and can lead differently ultimately too, in order to influence all the change that we want to see. So I think that's everything. Anyone else jump in?
Good. Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you. I was actually, when I was 23, I had 3 male bosses. No. No, I lasted 1 year in there. It was horrible. Anyway, for all the reasons that we said tonight, not because they were men per se, but okay, so Aileen, Jackie, Kate, and Zainab. Aileen.
Hi, so kind of saying similar to what people have said before, just our take on it really. So Kate made a good point about, when you do set up some groups, sometimes, you attract like-minded people, but actually it ends up being just same kind of people and just women, and therefore you kind of, you end up creating smaller, this not the kind of group that you're really looking for. So we thought about that as a kind of thing, using our inclusivity to collaborate and to be collaborative and have a really mixed, diverse group affecting change, rather than it just being the good ladies of that are interested in this, bring other people on the journey. Being courageous to challenge and being persuasive, to debate with, again, those that don't necessarily think exactly the same way as you do. Was it, I think it was Jackie was telling the story. Was it Jackie? Did you tell the story about Ruth Bader Ginsburg was best friends with a Republican and went in there and challenged him constantly. And yeah, so that was it. Just be challenging in a positive way, be inclusive, and use all that sort of emotional intelligence to just, as you say, take everybody along with you. But they don't necessarily have to look like you or think the same as you.
That is such a good point. That is an incredibly good point. You don't have to associate with people that are exactly the same as you, and you wouldn't learn anything anyway. Well, by challenging others, that you might actually have a chance of influencing them, which is a very good point. Jessica, Jordan, and Lola. Jessica.
Hi. So I hope I'm not repeating too much, but we definitely also talked about authenticity and having that confidence to stand up for things that we believe are right. And, you know, it might not always lead you on the best sort of like money career path, but it's, you know, it's a very selfless job to do. And we sort of agreed that women are, you know, they flourish in this environment because we have that maternal instinct to sort of care for something that's not just ourselves and this earth and future generations. So we thought that that was a very, you know, poignant point, that why women have this sort of ability to care so much, and lots of other people have said that. And I think we also said that leadership sort of has many different forms. Like, you don't have to be leading, you know, like a president or someone in a high up role. Like, leadership, you know, of the really small changes and the smaller things are, you know, arguably more important than those like bigger ones sometimes. So what else did we, oh yeah, and the ability to sort of listen to people and connect with them on a personal level before you sort of bring up your views and, you know, work, and that, yeah, that communication ability. Sorry if I've missed anything, guys. Yeah.
Fabulous. I think, yeah, going back to listening, I think that's probably the number one rule when you are trying to influence someone, is actually to listen to them and to their views and try and step into their shoes, even though you might not like them, but that will give you a lot of information that will be helpful for influencing them. Heidi, Kira, Maria, Rachel and Tara. And that would be Heidi again. My darling.
Heidi has a grocery order has just arrived. So, I'm going to take over for this one.
Okay.
I think one of the things we talked about was to use the emotional intelligence that we've identified to create kind of resonant storytelling around kind of personal actions. You know, it's no surprise that there's a huge amount of women influencers, for example, around lifestyles, and women as consumers we can shift hugely, you know, our consumption habits, and so much of the environment is, you know, environmental factors are linked to our consumption habits, that our ability to influence what is seen as aspirational lifestyle you know, could have a huge effect. Our ability to look at things holistically, you know, to look at the micro all the way up the steps to the macro at the same time. I think, you know, how does a sustainability goal trickle down into the individual lives of everyday existence of humanity, and what needs to happen at every single part, and to put those plans in place. I think women are particularly well placed to do that. Challenging the social norms on leadership, I think, is something that people have said before, but I think those newspapers that came out recently talking about how well these women did during COVID is, you know, a great, you know, first step, and something that could be the beginning of a shift in what is seen as good leadership. Sorry, a cat is licking my hand. And yeah, this completely changing what's seen as good leadership, mentoring and connecting with women as part of that. And then I was going to add raising our girls to be less people pleasy, and you know, because we do raise our girls and our boys differently, not just in this country but across the world, and unfortunately it does tend to make women less insecure and more perfectionist, not want to put themselves out there because they don't want to rock the boat. So you know, we're the mums, we're making the future. As someone who's just had a baby, I'm really super aware of that every action I take can shape someone's character, and so being aware of the power that we have, raising the next generation.
That's a lot of fantastic points from, you know, the storytelling element. We are very good at communicating generally, so let's use our own stories, our own lives to inspire others, like we're doing tonight, I think. And yeah, absolutely. Also on your last point, raising, sometimes we perpetuate the same problems, even people that believe in sustainability in a different world, just because we've been taught in the same way. So we need to really consciously unlearn and teach young people or our own children to just think differently and outside the box. So yeah, fabulous points.
We also touch on that point, Virginia, around, it's not necessarily about motherhood. I think we have that responsibility as a community, because there's always an opportunity to mentor others or to bring others onto the journey by inviting them and demonstrating that it's not as scary as it might look if we do it together. So I completely agree about motherhood, because I have a boy myself, and yes, it's about, I want to raise him to be the husband I want, and I have, thank God. So yeah, there is a lot of that, and it's potentially because we are women and they have that desire too. So
perfect. So before I actually call the last room, if anyone has anything to share, I know that some of these panelists have great projects, new ventures that they want to share. This is the time for shout outs. And I'm going to share the chat because I haven't managed to pay attention to everything, but it's so interesting and full of resources. So I will share that as well, but please do put in the chat the shout outs, and they're going to go to the whole group. Breakout room 8, Kate, Olivia, Rosie, Sabina and Samara. So Kate.
Cool. Thank you. So we talked about empathy, and we were saying bringing different voices to be highlighted in the conversations. And one of the people in our room, I think it was Rosie, was saying in her job that she'll be doing podcasts and Q&As and so on, and bringing people with different perspectives, maybe younger women, maybe Indigenous women, so that we can have empathy with different perspectives, and understand different perspectives than that we might have had before. We also talked about you know, allowing people to, bringing people with you to have a greater effect. So people, and it's all connected to empathy and to listening as well. And one example we talked about was in the news this week, there's been a lot of discussion about, especially in cities, the closure of certain roads in certain communities. And there's been a massive clash between the people who want to see a cleaner environment and fewer cars, and people who are saying, I simply can't manage with my elderly parent or my small child or whatever it might be without a car. And the two just are not seeing each other. And I think that's because there was not enough collaboration, there wasn't enough listening between the two groups to get to a place to understand the issues that they both had and find a collaborative solution. And we talked about trust and listening to, listening with one's heart as well as one's mind, trusting that people will do their part and we can work together. So if an issue, well, like climate change, seems insurmountable because it's just too big, or it might be a particular task at your work, trusting that people will do that together, so that you do your 10% and they'll do their 10%, and we'll all get done together. And the last point was just about allowing your own passion to come through and your own heart, so that if you were maybe giving a big company presentation, yes, you can present all of the data and all of the logical, rational information, but if you do it with passion and with heart, you will bring people with you.
So good, guys. Honestly, fantastic list of actions and things that we really can do. Now, I invite everyone to look at that worksheet, maybe tomorrow, now is a bit late, and I'm going to send it anyway via email, and really work through, what are your leadership qualities? How do you rate yourself? What is your level of emotional intelligence? And what can you do to improve any of this? What are your personal barriers to leadership? And see really what 3 steps can you do today to, as a result of, having heard all of this and being inspired by these wonderful women, by each other really, and what can you do differently from today to make a difference? So very quickly, do you have questions? And I know that Irene has been keeping an eye on questions. If there is something that hasn't been answered, please tell us now or shut up forever. Irene, do we have any questions that you think haven't been addressed?
I have a question that I've received few times before. So basically, one has been suggested by Olivia, and it is about what is the best way to get into sustainability?
The best way to get into sustainability? Oh, wow. Does any one of the ladies on the panel want to answer very briefly that one?
It was a very, very open-ended question. I do apologise, but there's no wrong answer, so it's fine.
I would say we get quite a few good ideas, but I would suggest, and the reason I suggest this because I ended up in sustainability by accident, is look at the different areas. Have a conversation with one of us in in a different context, in a different, more quiet environment, where the different aspects of sustainability, because you do have data management projects, and environmental aspect, the more complex in engineering aspect, and also in the industry. And if you listen to our experience and how we got involved, and then you look at what you've achieved so far and see if you can complement that, it's not going to be as complex for you to get into it.
I think the key is to really think about what gets you passionate and gets you going in terms of, not necessarily sustainability, but what is it that gets you buzzing? Is it creativity? Is it being outdoors? Is it creating a beautiful home? Even that what speaks to your soul, and there will be something environmental that links to whatever that is. So if you can bring a passion together with a sustainable cause, then that's when you when great things happen.
I agree. I completely agree. So I would say the time that my life became the most fulfilling was when my passion and my work came together, and that felt so good and so congruent, and like it was just supposed to be that way, that actually it's not really about the money has followed, the work has kind of flowed with it, but I'm doing something that I truly love, and I think people get that from you. It's a glow, and then the kind of success kind of happens. Not to get too spiritual about it, but I feel that the other thing to do is to just be ballsy. Like, don't wait for the job adverts, because when there's a job advert out there, there's going to be millions of people applying for it. Chase down the organizations that you want to work for, stalk people. That's what social media is for. Just like, be a totally shameless stalker. Turn up to webinars that people are speaking at, stalk their blogs, their content, find out what they're interested in. Don't just go, dear sir, madam, here's my CV. Connect with them on a personal level about the things that they're interested in, and just be laser sighted about it. Go for the job that they don't even know exists yet, because I know as a business owner, I'm always on the lookout for great people. And if I find great people, I find a job for them, because I know that when you employ great people, they pay for themselves, basically.
I think that's short of amazing, isn't it, Olivia? Lots of good ideas. I'm going to share with you the artwork that Carlotta's produced tonight. Be prepared to be inspired once again. Can you see that? You can't see that. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see.
Amazing.
That looks great.
Absolutely amazing.
We got
so beautiful.
I know, it's amazing. So I'm going to share it via email tomorrow so that you can all remind yourself of what we discussed tonight. But she's done an incredible job there. So that was just to wow you a little bit. So can we take maybe another couple of questions, and then if there is anything else that we haven't answered, we're going to share it with the panelists, and we're going to try and answer anything that wasn't answered tonight. And I'm really apologetic for the fact that we ran out. Actually, no, I'll thank you, which is different. I'll thank you for your patience tonight instead of apologizing. There you go. So another question, Irene?
Yeah.
Or if anyone has something, they want to shout right now, we can do that as well.
Can I ask a question? Carlotta's artwork, if I know you're going to share it, but can we share it on social media?
Yeah.
To kind of promote what you've done this what we've done this evening.
Yeah, that's half of the reason why we're doing it, to promote more what we're doing and the work that we want to put into this hub. So yeah.
So I have quite a few interesting questions. For example, I would like to pick up this. How can women leaders work better together for collective goals?
How can we work better together as women leaders? That's an interesting one.
That's a really, really good one.
So, ladies, what do you reckon? Kate, Georgia?
Reaching out to each other, I would say. Like I've joined a couple of groups recently of just really inspiring women who are always connecting the dots. They're just there connecting people, just being great facilitators. So I would say the best thing to do is to do that for yourself. If you're not part of a group already, just create your own. So if you know other inspiring women, just set up a WhatsApp group, set up a LinkedIn group, invite people to join it and just join the dots, be that facilitator. And before you even know it, the opportunities that you're looking for will come to you while you're helping other people find their opportunities.
I also heard a while ago that there's a big gap around collaboration amongst women because we don't like to ask for help because we're quite self-reliant, self-sufficient. So I guess we need to think about that a bit more consciously and realize that what we do might complement somebody else, and think about the others in the same way that we want them to think about us. So going back to what Georgia said, and seek collaboration, seek them out and stalk them and find out what they're up to.
I think also coming into networking events and this kind of thing with a certain mindset of how can I help other people, rather than coming into a networking event thinking how can they help me, because I do think that you end up with much deeper, less transactional relationships when you're kind of giving your time and your energy to kind of help others. It comes back tenfold. It maybe not straight away, but the connections that you make through that and the the network that you build up is really great. So
yeah, I would agree with that, and I've just only been freelancing or consulting on my own for a month, but that is absolutely seems to be the ethics of working in this way. Is somebody wants to have a chat with you about something that they don't know much about, and I'd be delighted to do it, and I've noticed that people are delighted to do it back so far. So that's been brilliant. And when I was working in a corporate job, it's a slightly different way of doing things, but I guess using your platform to be generous with other people. So we would run talks at the Body Shop on a regular basis, and sometimes they'd be internal, which would still go to 10, 20,000 people around the business when we live streamed them, but also we'd do Facebook lives and Instagram lives, and they would go to lots of other people. We'd bring in young women with different points of view to talk about what they've been doing. So I think sharing your platform is, whatever that platform might be, is another way to look at it.
I think there's an element of how we spend our time as well. And I know for me, when I get busy, it is those connections that sometimes, because that's the kind of softer side, it doesn't have always have the immediate return, or it's not immediately measurable, and it is done on a more informal basis, just checking in on your WhatsApp groups and dropping into your Facebook groups and stuff. So that can be the thing that slips. And I think as women particularly, a lot of our time is for other people, whether you're a mother or not, or you've got parents that you're caring for or not. There's all different circumstances, but there's a lot of emotional labor and a lot of time that is for other people. And I think it's seeing that time where you're investing in those relationships and those connections, and even just reading or coming to things like this and doing that kind of education work, that is for you. And so sometimes the time that is for you, and even your self-care time, that is the time that you always give up first for somebody else. So I think it's kind of guarding your time, because that is for the good of everybody. That's for the good of you, and it's for the good of the people that you're connecting with and everyone else. But I think it's just being conscious about that.
Through that. Okay, I think...
sorry, Virginia, do we have time for another question?
Maybe just one quick one. I would like to close in a couple of minutes, so a really quick one.
Yes, I have one which is very interesting. I would like to learn something from the panelists about this. I think we already talked about these things, but how do female leaders rise to the top in a man's world without having to resort to acting like men?
That is super interesting. How do we get to the...
Have you already discussed about this in your breakout rooms?
I don't know. Does anyone have a great idea on how to raise to the top without acting like men, in the worst meaning of the expression?
I actually had a conversation about that, because I met someone at an event where the speaker, who shocked me, said that openly, she said, "Oh, I went in the boys' room and became one of the boys." And I challenged that, because I thought, why do you have to become one of the boys? Why couldn't you not just be yourself? And I realized that obviously in her mind, that was the only way that she would achieve the success she was looking for. And I think it's important for us to go back to what Katie mentioned from our conversation, is accept that you are a female leader, embrace who you are, and then go forward from there. Because if you don't have that foundation there, but then Katie was talking about, there are moments where you're in front of men or other leaders that are not necessarily men, but they are they get you to think that you're not worthy of being in that situation or to give advice. Is realize that it might just be all in your head. And also, if it's not in your head, seek out advice from other people, and women or men, to help them mentor you into coming out of that situation and achieving something different. But also there is something quite crucial here, I think, is there is a time where you have to move on from a situation that is nothing to do with the leadership, is the environment. And if that environment is not good for you, you need to accept that it's time to move on. But it'll be safe to do so if you are more aware. And it's difficult to be aware if you're in the situation and you're so conflicted. You need to step out, seek out your community, call any of us and say, this is happening, but this is happening again, or it's not happening. Then, let's help each other, let's mentor each other to come out of the situation in a much better way. I hope that helps.
I think, sorry.
No, I was just saying mentoring is a great point, actually, seeking the advice of others that have been there before. But yeah, Tara.
Definitely. Well, I guess what I was saying is basically doing exactly what we've done tonight, which is identify what makes you as a woman, what gives you the edge, what are your strengths, what might you be able to do better than a man, and that means that you're not competing to be macho alpha type. You're competing on your own terms with your own weapons, and we have, as we've identified this evening, very powerful weapons that we can deploy with great effect, and as has been shown in COVID. So I think it's like playing to the female strengths and leaning into that rather than shying away from that.
I am so glad, can I just say, I'm so glad you said lean in. I think if anybody on this call has not read Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, then you have to read it. It's such a great book. You have, or you haven't?
I have, yes.
Oh, you have, yeah. I mean, it's just fantastic. So if anyone's not read it, then it really gives a great support network as well. The Lean In network, you can go online, it's completely free. You can join a Lean In group. It's just brilliant, and it's a great backup to the book. So yeah, read it.
Ladies, I have to stop us here. Unfortunately, for me, we're going to go until midnight and past, but honestly, it's been such an amazing pleasure and privilege to host this event tonight. And I think everyone agrees, you know, hugely inspirational. We have some steps. I'm sure everyone has been thinking about themselves and how they can improve and how they can make themselves stronger, and what they can do to take steps towards better leadership and sustainability tonight. And yeah, do your homework, use the worksheet to, you know, to keep the conversation going in your own head and with your other female friends. Why not? So a big, huge thank you to the panelists, Georgia, Sean, Tara, Giovanna and Kate for sharing their wisdom, their lives with us. It's been incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you to my fantastic volunteers, Olivia, Irene and Rachel, and thank you to Carlotta for drawing this, you know, this amazing artwork, which I'm going to share tomorrow. And thank you guys for joining us, for staying for nearly an hour extra on top of what we said we were going to do, but hopefully it was useful for everyone. And yeah, you come out of this stronger, why not?
Yes, can I say something? I'm in Virginia's Guru Mastermind course, and it's always me that has to say something. Can I say thank you to Virginia for creating a new wins group? Hasn't it been amazing? Yes, look at how
brilliant, Virginia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm really humble. Thank you so much. And yeah, Kate, you always comment, you know, good things, you know. Thank you so much. And good night, everyone. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you have any more questions, please email them through, and we will try and answer them as soon as possible. Thank you. And until the next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good night. Good night.